Hey everybody, it has been 10 years since I redid the 6-8 notes, so I thought it was about time to get a new copy. Hopefully I've condensed it to the most important facts and it's organized enough that you can follow along. So we're going to talk about graphing radical functions. Just remember the word radical might mean square root, it might mean cube root, it could potentially mean fourth or even fifth root, but we're just going to graph square roots and cube roots today. So the goal is to look at their graphs, find their domains and ranges, and then talk about the translations. Before we begin, everything that you've ever learned about left, right, up, down, stretch, compress, and reflect still applies. So if you have a negative in the front, that's still reflecting. If A gets bigger, that's still stretching. If it gets smaller, it's still compressing. And then let's see what else we have. Translation, if it's a minus inside, it's going to move right. Plus inside left, and the same with the back. A plus in the back is up, and a minus in the back is down. So it doesn't matter what root we have. We could have the square root. These rules apply. We could have the cube root. These rules apply. We could have the fourth root, the fifth root, the sixth root, which we're not going to do, but all of those rules still apply. Based on this information, what are some of the transformations of the parent function y equals the square root of x? Now, I know you don't know what that looks like yet, but you will by the end of this lesson. Right now, let's just make sure we remember our translations and transformations. So this negative in the front, remember, is a reflection. This minus 3 on the inside is a movement to the right, 3 units. And then last but not least, the plus 5 in the back is a movement up 5 units. And these are things we've learned before, but very good to remember. This 1/3 in the front, remember it used to be a 1 in the front, is a vertical compression of a third. And this plus 3 inside is left 3. There's no up or down because there's nothing extra in the back. All right, the same applies for cube root functions, which you'll learn in more detail as we go through the lesson. Remember, that's the most basic form. That's the parent function of a cube root graph. So when we just simply change it by putting a 7 in the back, that means up 7 units. So you would take the graph and the whole graph would move itself up 7. This one has a lot more going on. Remember, the negative is a reflection. Technically, I did not spell, hold on, reflection. It's a reflection around the x-axis. This minus 1 moves it to the right 1. This minus 2 moves it down 2. If you need more helpful information about that, that was something you struggled with, please look back at the Chapter 2, Section 6 notes. All right, before moving on, let's check some vocabulary. Number 1 wants us to circle the radical functions. Just remember, radical means you're going to have a root. So the only ones that are radical functions are those two right there. The next one says circle the square root. So that means it has an index of 2. So that has an index of 3. That has an index of 2. That has an index of 2. Remember, the index of 2 is hiding for square roots. So that was that vocabulary. Last but not least, let's check this transformations thing one more time. The parent function is the most simple function, so D. If you're going to move something down, you're going to have a minus in the back. That's A. If you're going to vertically stretch it, that means K has to be bigger than 1. So that's going to be E. They're assuming K is bigger than 1. If you're going to move it up, that's a plus in the back. So that's going to be F. Reflection on the x-axis means that the front is going to be negative. So it's B. And last, where we're going to move something to the right, that is a minus on the inside. Let's try to find that one. And that is C. And those are all old reviews. All right, guys. Now the question becomes, how do we graph them? And I know you're really excited, but I've got kids coming in 1 minute, so that's going to have it save itself for the next video.